Champions League final. Congratulations, Barcelona, our 2024 UEFA Women's Champions League champions. That's it. They did it. They won.
Champions of the Champions League. Yes, the champions of champions. Well, what can you do?
They got it done. Oh my gosh. Where do we even start? Let me just maybe put a link out so that everybody knows what we're doing. And they have not lifted the trophy yet, right?
Not that. No. Wait. They're still on the field celebrating as I walk down to the office.
Got it. Okay.
Let me do some things here. We're just gonna. We're doing it live.
We're doing it live. Doing it live. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I want to stream DAZN on my phone in hopes that I don't screw up the performance here of the live stream and see the trophy lift. I wish I could place the bet. If they don't give the trophy right to Putellas, if she's not the one to lift it, whoever lifts it is going to hand, or whoever gets it is going to hand it right to Putellas, I bet.
I think that's a good bet.
It's better than having Lyon plus 1.25. I'll tell you that, buddy, because that goal at the end, some people, if they're into that thing, may have been extra disappointed by that last second goal.
A little tough. I think my prediction, I was happy with my prediction. Barcelona 2-1.
Yeah, you crushed.
Just didn't get the Lyon one. I thought it'd be a lot closer. So basically, like, well, I guess what do you think went wrong for Lyon?
I don't think a ton went wrong. I think the ball didn't go in. I think, you have these opportunities. They had some opportunities from like point blank range that, you're scraping across the face of the crossbar. You're getting some like timely blocks. Lucy Bronze, for the record, moving forward, Lucy big game bronze.
Oh, I love that.
Come on, man.
Give me all that.
That's a great match by her, buddy. Like, that was fantastic.
Wait a minute. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? This is in the Champions League, bro. We got to celebrate. Anybody watching, if you are partaking at home, please join us.
Of course. How else do you celebrate the Champions League?
What a run. Cheers.
Cheers to you, buddy. This is fantastic.
Lucy F. Bronze. How about that? Big game Lucy.
That's a football game by her.
She was everywhere. She was everywhere. She was in the mix, giving up her body, just every challenge, smart passes, nothing, we didn't see, Lucy Goosey Bronze today. We saw on point, Lucy on point bronze, Lucy F. Bronze. Congrats to her. Wow. What a performance.
100%. She, I took a note early in the first half and I was like, man, they're running a lot of the offense through Lucy Bronze, which was a little bit of a look I just didn't expect. We'll obviously talk about CGH, but I think at times when you have Bronze kind of dictating some of the attack, it allows CGH to go deeper and then collect the ball deeper, which I thought was an interesting look.
Yeah, no Batier to start.
Yeah.
So that probably meant that, a lot of their offense, just kind of runs up the flank, which we talked about in the preview show. So they start Bronze and Rolfo in the back there. I thought offensively, I liked what Barcelona was doing. We talked in the preview about Lyon maybe looking to try to defend a little bit, sit back a little bit more. I thought that kind of burned them because they spent the first 2/3 of the game chasing Barcelona around. Barcelona's passing was crisp, clinical, just very, very effective. They had Lyon definitely chasing and kind of getting a little bit more frustrated as the match went on. So I think it kind of gassed them a little bit because once Aitana scores and now Lyon's got to kick it up into gear. I don't want to say they didn't have another gear to kick it to, but it didn't look a whole lot different than the attacks in the first 2/3 of the game.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, man. I think that's one of those things that, I made my prediction. I predicted 1-0 Lyon. I thought it was going to be nervy. We talked, like you said, a lot about it being maybe a little more of a defensive look, Lyon being like, okay, we'll give up some possession. But I still was hoping that Lyon could, I mean, not hoping, but I was predicting that Lyon could still take a lot of shots. And about 22 or 23 minutes in, I was like, oh, yeah, that prediction doesn't work, because if you let Barcelona hold the ball, they'll definitely outshoot you. You have no shot at outshooting them if they have 60-40 possession.
Yeah, the shots were in the same neighborhood. I checked maybe with like 10 or 15 minutes left in the match.
14-13 is the final count on FootMob.
Okay, yeah. I think a lot of those were, it might have been like 12-9 when I checked it. So a lot of those might have been, late, a little desperate. Lyon just trying to get something somewhere. But I think that point is pretty much on the money. Like, they had to work so hard. And I think the first 15 minutes was maybe some of Lyon's best, because they looked to go kind of back and forth. They earned a couple corners early. But I want to say that like maybe the first turning point that I remember was CGH absolutely scorching ITC favorite Selma Basha. That was tough. That was tough to watch. She was giving her that business.
That looked like something you and I were texting during the match, but that just looked like something that Barcelona came in with. I would imagine, and I'd love to hear a player's take on this, or Geraldo's take on it. Of okay, yeah, if we want to counteract, we get the best of both worlds. CGH has the ball, always a good thing, like that for us. And then second, we can wear out Basha, so she's not as dangerous on the attack moving forward, trying to serve balls in. You just have to keep her honest almost when you have CGH playing like that.
Yeah, totally. And I think Asil helped us go through this on the preview with regard to like, okay, what kind of CGH are we going to get? She was like, well, are we going to get like a happy CGH? We got angry CGH. She was pissed. She was ready to take it out on whoever was in front of her. I thought she was great in the first half, keeping the pressure on. On the Lyon side, good first half from Renard. Really good first half from Diani. I thought Diani and Dumornay had a little bit of action going, but Barcelona defensively, man, like there was a couple times where looked like there was a window, and those windows closed so quickly, like just so quickly. Like, Delphine had a chance, Dumornay had a chance. And as soon as there's a little bit of daylight, Barcelona is just so good at, we talked about this before, not only closing down the ball, but closing down the next two outlets that you have.
100%.
So if you don't take action immediately, everything's gone. Your look at goal's gone, your two outlets are gone, everything's just gone. And I think Barcelona really just won this defensively. Obviously, they blank Lyon. Let's fucking go. How about that? Yeah. But I think it was more than that, because Gatakoi early, a little nervy also. She had a couple of nervy spots.
A little bit.
I kept thinking, if you're Lyon, you had to have taken advantage of those couple little crevices, whether it's Basha's corner, kissing off the crossbar, or, I think Gatakoi also fumbled one where she goes heads up with Haran. It was kind of like a jump ball, and they kind of go after it. But I don't know. It was game definitely slipped away. Game definitely slipped away from Lyon there. And, to Barcelona's credit, they just squeezed even harder.
Lyon has several world-class players, and it still stands that what we have talked about for weeks is that to beat Barcelona, you have to hope for an off night from a couple of their great players, and you have to play your best. And the margin for error, is still very slim. And if that doesn't speak volumes about the level of talent, I think the organization of Barcelona, I put in my notes, it's relatively easy to say about Barcelona or about Geraldo. He was making the subs. I was like, ooh, good sub, another good sub. And I realized like he's bringing on great players, but I thought he pulled all the right levers on top of great CGH performance, great Bronze performance, really good Bon Mati performance, all of that.
I mean, I totally agree with you on Giraldo's subs. And
It worked.
I think he got the subs wrong against Chelsea in the first leg.
Yeah.
So props to him for saying, okay, Battier is going to come in here. I think she took Rolfo out. And that basically firmed up their back four again, where it's just like, we love this four, and Lyon, we know offensively, it wasn't until the last 8 or 10 minutes of the match where they start committing most of their players forward. Prior to that, it was like two or three here. Like, it wasn't even the 3 or 4 that we talked about in the preview. It was either Dumornay and Diani or Cascarino kind of trailing, or maybe like we didn't see Cascarino out ahead of the attackers at all. It was pretty much her more in a trailing position. So like maybe a little bit too conservative for Lyon.
Maybe. And you wonder, were they forced into that because of the strategy of let Barcelona hold the ball a little bit, play not a low block because they're still Lyon.
Okay, I think Bronze lifted the trophy. Maybe? Yeah, now they're hopping around. Oh no, I think they all might have lifted it. We might have missed the the who got the first handoff. It looks like
see, we're out here gas bagging, and we missed the trophy lift. That's all right. I might be a little ahead of you. I see. Yeah, Mariona has it now. They're showing Lee. What's that?
That's where I'm at. Mariona has it.
Yeah, no, they're showing Lyon's vets there, applauding the away fans. Always like to see that. Yeah, I think you kind of give yourself up in that case. Like, I know you had talked about it, Lyon's possible strategy of like, okay, well, we can attack with Diani, Dumornay, and maybe we try to sneak one, whether it's Basha or Carpenter, or maybe it's one midfielder. We try to sneak them up, and we can attack with just those 3 to 4 players, and we feel good enough about that. Man, it feels silly to say now because I said I don't want to make a business out of betting against Barcelona. I guess you just can't do that against Barcelona. You're not going to get them with 3, even if you have 3 absolutely world class. But it was still close. It wasn't like a blowout. So I don't want to make it seem like Lyon got smashed here. I think they have their opportunities, but that margin for error, tiny.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Twagus Mood, who popped in, who let us know Alexia lifted it first. So shout out. Appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Thank you for the info.
What's up, Carlo in the house? Lyon needed to send Carpenter forward sooner. Could see that. And Lyon missed Les Omer and Debritz for sure. Debritz would have been interesting, giving him a different look. But ultimately, like if Lyon wasn't going to commit players forward, they didn't really have Van de Donk forward. They didn't have Haran forward. Damaris was great. I mean, I think she was up and down, even though she did get fell asleep a little bit on the Aitana goal.
Yeah.
Aitana gave her the okie doke, and then that was it. Our guy Dan on Twitter kind of called out Carpenter on that one, but I thought Damaris had the assignment, and Aitana Bonmati just so good, man. Like, she did it against Chelsea also. Like, you're into the 60s with regard to the minutes, and nobody scored, and it sort of feels like the scoring is slipping further and further away from being a probability. Although the defenders were getting a little tired, I feel like space was starting to open up. But she's just so good at her, and Graham Hansen, just so good at finding a little crevice and then saying 100. Like, I'm going right now, and like, you better be ready. And on that play, Lyon's defense just was not ready.
I thought about this. We'll take a little. I'll borrow a term from American football. I think you'll understand the theme here. Caroline Graham Hansen, sneaky fast.
Yes.
Faster than I expect sometimes.
Deceptively fast.
Deceptive speed for sure. I mean, she was just running right at people. And then Bonmati, we talked about it in the second leg of the Chelsea semifinal. Just Bonmati, just like, it's such a great shout by you. Like 60 minutes, things are starting to slip away, and you could just feel her like, I'm going to influence this a little more. I'm going to ratchet up a little more and a little more as we go. I'm going to be a little more influential in the match. And that's what great players do. She's best player in the world, I think. And and pushed by her teammate Caroline Graham Hansen. So wonderful performance from them. I'm eager to see. I've also missed while we're on here, but it's totally reasonable. I'm curious who the player of the match is. So I'll need to do a quick Googles on that and figure it out. But if you had to name, if you're in charge of it, who does Dino name as the player of the match?
Let's see. Player of the match. I mean, it's hard not to say Beaumati.
Yeah.
Because of the goal. Obviously, like, prawn robbed.
Shout out to you, Daniel. Love that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I got my jersey. I considered putting on my jersey, but the boys packed on a couple pounds. It's the last
we're busy.
Snuggie. And we're in NWSL season, so I got my Orlando Pride.
There you
shirt.
go.
No team colors in the box. I think it's got to be Beaumati.
Yeah.
I thought Graham Hansen was unbelievable, in terms of setting the tone.
Yeah.
She was so important. I thought defensively, Paredes, obviously, because she gets off to the rocky start, and I thought she stepped up. Oh, Carlos says Bronze might have been player of the. Oh, she was the player of the match, or maybe it's Carlos. That's not a bad choice. We opened the show with talking Lucy Bronze, so might be that.
Yeah, Lucy big game bronze for sure. And I don't know, this might be just Lucy bias, but on the American feed, the legend Lucy Ward on color commentary, she said she knew she wasn't going to get it, but she would have put forth bronze as player of the match. Just because of she really had a massive influence at the beginning of the match, especially, but then she had some other key interventions later too. But to your point, I think you got to give it to Beaumati. She scores the deciding goal. She's the heliocentric, maybe not quite heliocentric, but she is like the motor for the whole squad. I think it's got to be Beaumati.
Yeah, no arguments here. I think 3 good options realistically. Well, let me ask you this. We might remember this as the Aitana Beaumati tournament. Obviously she turns the table against Chelsea.
Yeah.
But this match in particular, are we going to remember this as the Lucy Bronze match?
I think we're more likely to remember it as a Lucy Bronze match instead of a Beaumati match. But I wonder how much of that is set by the expectation that Beaumati is going to be a world beater every time she steps on the field. And even though Lucy Big Game Bronze is who she is, it still is a little surprising to see your English right back kind of help control large parts of the offense for stretches of the match. So I think we can call this the Lucy Bronze game.
I like it because I've been a little not rough on Lucy, but I'm not the world's biggest Lucy Bronze fan.
She has her moments, but
she has her moments. A great way to put it. She just was involved in action all over the field, which is great to see. And she's such a hard-nosed player. She's drawing fouls like right around midfield where she's like not even supposed to be, but she's like fighting for a ball, drawing a foul, earning a free kick, and again using that to squeeze the possession. So that Lyon, it's just another 30, 45 seconds of Lyon having to chase. That one Lucy Bronze win, so huge. I think I'm going to remember this as a Lucy Bronze match. This one kind of redirected, how I feel about Big Game Bronze. So shout out to her.
Exactly. And I think, as somebody who pays close attention to the English national team, that's kind of her game is, sometimes she does some stuff and you're like, oh boy, that doesn't look great. And then she will come up with like a lot of times I'll see it. It'll be a big block. I love your point about her drawing fouls. I thought that was really interesting in the first half where I was like, oh man, like she's trying to like rack up the cautions on Lyon too. Just a great savvy veteran type move to just like exactly what you're saying. We're going to hold the ball a little more. I'm going to frustrate the opponent. I'm going to force them into fouls. And, I wonder if it even adds to the frustration of the opponent if they're like, oh crap, Bronze is on the ball this much. Like, I think it's like there might even be a little bit of an element of surprise there.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about Lyon's game plan of maybe sitting back a little bit, this is where the game plan started to go awry because you're allowing more possession, you're doing more chasing, you're letting Bronze advance with the ball. You're letting Kira Walsh advance with the ball. Bomati, Batri, like they're kind of just inching closer and closer. And I had in my notes that I didn't think that Barcelona was going to be able to break through against Gio and Renard because Bariuelo was frustrated pretty much all day. CGH was dangerous, but once she got past Basha, pretty good coverage behind, to kind of slow things down, even though she snuck a couple of really good crosses in. But ultimately, it was just too much pressure, just too much defending, too much chasing. And that's exactly what happens when you just spent literally an hour plus running and chasing, fall asleep for a second, and you have probably the best player in the world just scooting through right into some nice space, getting a little bit of a cross shot through, on target, gets a deflection. But that's what great players do. They just will the ball into the goal. And it did feel like in this one, it wasn't going to be like some fuck up that created the goal. Like it wasn't going to be like, like a real boneheaded play. It was going to be like almost like a ugly kind of goal, just like a sheer force of will, like an onslaught or a wave of just offense. And we're just going to overwhelm you in this 1 10-second action, which is kind of what happened. Like she almost willed the ball into the net and willed them into a 1-0 lead.
That's a great way to put it. Like she was going to have her influence on it. Real quick in the comments, our pal Vespa, great friend of the pod, didn't like the result. We're sorry, pal. Benfica will be back, and then Frederick, hey, Bron, of course, the Killer Bees, Bron and Benfica in the building for the live stream. We appreciate you guys.
The four common opponents of the finalists. So there we go.
Exactly. I think we should have worked something out for Bron and Benfica to play in a ceremonial third place match. I think for the way they pushed both of these teams. But I digress.
Excellent. Yeah, let's make that happen.
I want to see that match. But yeah, to your point, I think there wasn't much more for Gilles to do on that play when Beaumati creates that space, like you're pointing out, like she sneaks away from Damaris and maybe a little bit of Carpenter. And it's just up to Gilles to just try to block it, to just, get down on the ground, try to slide and get it. And it's so unlucky for a defender when you only catch that little piece of the ball with like the top of your shin, because you're doing the right thing. You just got to catch it flush, because if you do get that little top of the shin, your keeper has no chance.
Yeah, just made it worse.
Yeah, exactly. And you just pray that maybe the ball nicks off the post, or off the crossbar rather, or maybe goes over. But there's no way for a keeper, no matter how many times they do those drills. You ever see those drills where they just lay a bunch of like rubber pellets on the ground and then they just fire shots at the keeper? It takes a terrible bounce at him. It just feels like it looks like an awful experience, but there's a reason they do it. It's because those kind of reflexes are hard to come by.
I think, yeah. I mean, to me, I didn't think you messaged me about that. And again, our guy Dan talked about the deflection, maybe an own goal. To me, that was an Aitana goal. Like, 100%. like you can't really, the turning point of the goal to me was when she scoots past Damaris. Yeah. Like Damaris and her are sort of on even, longitude on the field. Aitana takes, she just takes off, and it was almost a wrap at that point, because she just ran right into some space away from Gilles, making the angle harder for Gilles, and then just powers it past both of them. So shout out to her. Do you think Club World Cup? Do you think Club World Cup will be at the UCL level, considering NWSL? That's interesting.
I think it's a great question. We might have to put that in the file of future show topics. I like the sound of it. I mean, Gotham FC got a win yesterday, a pretty convincing win. It's so weird, because I know you've talked about it before, and I like this quick digression. whether NWSL or the top teams in NWSL versus the top teams in, like, obviously Barcelona, Liga F, or Day One Arkema, or the WSL, it's hard to say what's better. It's just the styles of play are so much different. So
Yeah.
I would be super interested to see, for example, let me pick a name out of the sky here, the Orlando Pride play Lyon. Like, I think that would be a hell of a football game.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And the style, like we got to talk about a lot of the time. And now I'm in the DAZN mindset, styles make fights in terms of like what that would look like. I just want it to happen, to be honest. I just want to see all these teams kind of mix it up globally. And I don't know, kind of see where we go from here. I think I wanted to quickly shout out to Mariona Caldente.
Oh, yeah.
Who has looked a little spotty. There's been a lot of talk about her contract situation and what that's going to be like and where she's going to play. And like, you kind of saw that leak onto the field a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I thought in the final that all went out the window. She was really confident, moving the ball into dangerous areas, providing an outlet. She was good on the ball, not a lot of turnovers. So I just kind of wanted to give Mariona a shout out because I thought, like, I was really looking towards that the first 10, 15 minutes of the game. All right, who's ready? Who looks good? Who looks sharp? And again, I think early Diani looked good. Renard. Mariona, I was like, okay, Mariona's here to play. Bonmati, obviously CGH, a lot of the names that we've mentioned. And the game just kind of took off from there. I want to talk a little bit now about the Alexia goal, though, at the end. That was just a cool moment. Like, just a cool, fun moment to kind of like celebrate. Felt like the top came off the stadium with regards to the crowd. They just kind of exploded, and they were already super lit. They went from like 10 to like 18 at that moment.
For sure. Yeah. A moment that, like, it would feel silly to write at the end of the sports movie. Like the two-time Ballon d'Or winner, the club hero, comes on late, has had like some health issues, comes on, gets the game sealing match pretty much, or the game sealing goal, pardon me, pretty much at the death of the match. She just signed just a few days ago, I think, that contract that people have been begging the club to give to her. Something tells me that Barcelona, they probably didn't have to be pushed too hard to give her that contract. I would hope that they had enough sense about them to know they were doing that, but negotiations are what they are. So yeah, 2 years going through 2026 with an option for the third. I think if you ask everybody at Barcelona right now, they'd be like, you could just pick up the option if you'd like. I mean, I think that goal is worth the cost.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, no arguments there. It was great to see her notch that one because obviously it wasn't the be all end all, obviously, because Barcelona ends up advancing over Chelsea. But I mean, she missed that absolute bunny at the end of the first Chelsea match after coming on kind of in the same situation. I think a little bit earlier in the match, but still a late sub, and kind of couldn't get it done. So it was really, really great to see her. And it wasn't like this was a goal to make it 3-0 to 4-0. Right. Going from 1-2 in that spot. When Lyon is kind of pressing, they're kind of making the last 10, 15 minutes interesting. To just slam the door like that. I mean, and you could kind of see the emotion just spill over. That was a really, really cool moment. Injury, the Chelsea miss, having to come on as a sub as a former, Ballon d'Or winner, and then doing that in Bilbao, like that'll make a couple DAZN promos when we start promoting next year's Champions League coverage.
I think so. Definitely a moment worth remembering. Well deserved. I mean, couldn't be more well deserved. Yeah, I like the comment here. Icing on the cake. I think that's I'm sure Barcelona fans in their homes were probably screaming about that one. Like, that's the perfect ending for them. And quick, speaking of the comments here, shout out to Daniel. We appreciate you, man. Thanks for locking in with us. Thanks for watching. Thank you for the kind words. Appreciate you hanging out with us.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you, Daniel and Carlo and Frederick, all of our guys in the chat. Guys and gals. I want to talk about I want to quickly hit a big one here. Angel City 0, San Diego 0. No, I'm just kidding. The final.
I mean, still interesting.
Didn't catch too much of it, but talk about that one later, or maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just kind of scoot ahead. Let me see, what else do we have? I thought, the our guy Chris Sharples, Lucy Ward, who you mentioned on the call, I thought they were really interesting. Great stories, great little tidbits. Found out Damaris Agarola was actually born in the United States, and she's one of Orlando's own. Born in Orlando, Florida, baby. Let's go. So if she's looking to make a move, you already know what time it is. Not quite the homecoming could be.
Yeah, that's what Orlando needs. More world-class players, for sure.
Yeah, let's go.
I wouldn't be mad at you, though, man. I mean, I know you're enjoying it down there. I'm glad you mentioned Chris Sharples and Lucy Ward on the call. I made sure to make a note of it. I think we got on a Lyon corner around the 49th minute in the second half. I think that was when we got our first goodness me out of Chris Sharples. He's usually good for one or two of those per match. Shout out to him. I noticed in his Twitter bio, his location is Chester, England, which is a beautiful city that I actually saw recently. So should have hit our guy up. I should have hit our guy Cam up while I was over there, but I was too nervous to be like, hey, like, you're at the end of several football seasons and you're extremely busy. Here are my very small 3 windows that we could hang out. Yeah, Cam, and then we'll reach out to Chris next time I'm over there. We're hanging out. But yeah, Sharples and Ward, incredible call of the match. I want to bring up another thing here that I thought Asil Tufaili, who everybody should follow on Twitter, follow on Instagram, follow on TikTok, read her articles on Forbes. All those are in our preview episode. It's the pinned comment in there. She brought up set pieces for Lyon. And when you're talking about kind of like the limited attack, is it fair to say, tell me if I'm tripping here, Lyon might have looked most dangerous throughout this match on set pieces?
I agree with that. Basha had the one that nicked the crossbar. I think she also put one in that Renard had like a free header on, where she was like a foot and a half over anybody else. We learned also from Asil that she's 1.87 meters tall. Didn't know that.
Love that.
We're more of a feet and inches kind of crew here in the States. There was another corner. I think Haran took it, scooted over all the way across the field, that led to another Basha free kick coming back the other way. That was dangerous. I think that might have been the one that Gatakoy fumbled, where her and Haran both went for it. Yeah. They were very dangerous, from set pieces and kind of like the free kick area. I thought. Oh, do you have anything else on that?
Well, I thought Gilles looked good on a couple of free kicks. Yep. I mean, Asil really nailed it. They had that size advantage. I think Chris Sharples mentioned it on the broadcast too. Like, you want to take advantage of that when you have it. But Barcelona, they just nudge you out of spaces. Like you mentioned that Renard header. Like even she's towering over people, but she's just not quite in the right spot. She's they keep her a little further back from the goal, so Coy has time to react and make the save. There were a couple headers I was like, if they could have got more on it, they would have had a better chance of beating Coy. But the way from where they were positioned, they were just having no chance to finish it in some of those opportunities, even when they're kind of getting it on goal.
I agree with that. I think thinking about what Lyon was trying to do offensively, I kind of feel like once you hit the half-hour mark and let's run 3 upfield or 2 upfield and hope something good happens, and then we'll just use the rest of our energy to defend. I think I might have gone away from that a little earlier, because they just felt we got to come in here. Lyon lacked clinical finish on their chances. That's definitely true. But they did have some chances. I thought they also looked pretty rushed, because I think they were trying to just grab it and kick it upfield, hope for something good to happen, like we mentioned, and that just wasn't it. I think there was one moment right around the 60th minute. This was before the Aitana goal, where Dumornay and Diani are running up the left-hand side, and they've got Cascarino on the right. And I'm like, is she going to try to hit Cascarino? She didn't. She tried to pull it back, because I think that Lyon was just like, we need to just hold the ball for a minute here. Like we need a minute to have the ball, knock it around, and catch our breath. And maybe we're not going to score this way either, but what we have been doing to this point just has not been it. I think they had a small window in the first half and early in the second where Diani going at Rolfo looked dangerous, looked compelling.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you're only getting one, a chance here, 10, 15 minutes later, another half a chance there, that's really not it either. So I kind of didn't really like waiting so long to get into maybe an alternative game plan.
I think that's a great point. I notched that moment in my notes too. It was like great skill from Diani to bring down a clearance and try to get settled. She gets it up to Dumornay, who looked like she was like sizing up Paredes. Like, okay, I think I can beat you. Asil talked about it in the preview that Dumornay versus Paredes might be a significant speed advantage for Dumornay, and I don't think there's any might be about it. I think even Sharples referenced it on the broadcast of like, that's not a race Barcelona really wants. But you're totally right. When you don't have the ball at all, the inclination is to be like, okay, we can't just try to fast counter everything because we're just getting gassed on defense. You mentioned Cascarino. I mean, this is just the forward, the attacking player special. They brought her off the pitch, and I never blame any athlete for this. She looked fucking furious. And every time they showed the bench after that, she continued to look absolutely livid. And that's why players like her score, though, is because they have that mindset. Don't take me off the field. It's a 1-goal game. I'm the goal that you need.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she believes in Amel Majri, but for a player of Cascarino's skill, I thought she is reasonably angry, but they needed to make some changes too.
I mean, I kind of agree with you, and obviously she stayed mad the whole time. Every time the camera found her, she was just she was hot. But I don't know if this was the Cascarino game. She needs, I think, and it's kind of same with Badiola on the other side. They need a little bit more open field. They need to be able to run a little bit, get creative, kind of like take a little bit of a different angle than you're expecting. This just was not going to be it. I thought if they were going to score, it was going to be Diani or Diani Dumornay, tag teammate essentially. But even them, that just kind of was they just needed to try to hold the ball more, utilize some of their skill, in tighter spaces. Barcelona absolutely dominated in tighter spaces. And I thought Lyon's decision making, their kind of fast twitch decision making, not fast enough either. Yeah. I thought Barcelona, like I said, they closed down everything. Like if you didn't take that chance immediately, if you didn't knock that ball into space and onto a runner immediately, it was over.
Yeah, I think in the comments there talking, Carlos talking about Cascarino, or depending a little too much on Cascarino, maybe going to Dumornay, and I don't want to mispronounce Twagismude, making great points in here, saying that Cascarino lost too many balls in the buildup. She's on that attacking left side against Hansen, Bonmati, and Bronze. I think that's a really great point, is that Cascarino was like trying to make something happen and just having a frustrating time. And to both of their points, so she's having that frustrating time. You got to take her off. You bring on Majri, get a different look. But how much earlier could they have gone to Dumornay? Just a lot of questions. I'm sure Bon Pastor is going to be asking herself a lot of questions. But also at the end of the day, these were clearly the two best teams. They're the two best teams in the world. I think you can make a good argument with respect to the Orlando Pride, of course. I guess we don't know that until we see them play, until we see Barcelona play the Pride after they win the league this year. Might win the double.
I mean, as long as they get press credentials, I'm
That's the real important part.
We're good, baby. I thought Cascarino too loose with the ball, and there was there was a little bit there was just a little bit too much of that. Haran a little loose with the ball early. I think she tightened up, second half, but she had a couple brain farts throughout the match. And I want to correct you. Are these the two best teams in the world? Probably. We'll just put NWSL to the side for now.
Sure.
Are these the two best teams in Europe? Yes. Is Barcelona the best team in Europe? Resounding yes. They are the best team. They bossed the game. Like their big time players were more big time than Lyon's big time players. When it came down to it, sort of like the championship DNA. I think Lyon would have needed something incredible to come out victorious in this one, and I don't think they it. It would have needed to be some magic. I think Asil used that word on the preview as well. We just would have needed to see some magic to get a different outcome, because these teams played heads up 50-50 football, and then ultimately the dam just kind of busted in the last half hour of the match, and then completely got obliterated with Alexia's second goal in stoppage time there.
I think there were some moments, like let's say the Basha cross or corner kick that comes off the face of the crossbar. If that sneaks in, or if Renard is there, then we have these sliding doors, whatever you want to call them. It's a totally different match, but it didn't happen. And so your point is well made that Barcelona, you play the games to crown the best team. And sometimes I think there are legitimate arguments to be okay, this team won, they got a couple bounces, whatever. Not in Barcelona's case, man. This is the best team. They're the champs. They're they hold every title. If we want to go to more DAZN boxing references, they are the lineal champ. They're every type of. They have every single belt you could have. They won. We've said what we've had to say about Liga F. Barca fans, assign that take more to Dino, because he created that one about Liga F is a little weak. Not that I don't disagree.
Lucy Ward backed me up on the broadcast, right? So chill.
Well, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but yeah.
Barcelona, I'm checking here. It looks like they're also the Ring Magazine champions of Europe. So shout out.
Yes, look at that. A coveted title for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so they win. We've said what we've said about Liga F. The legend Lucy Ward agrees, but they have a quadruple. They're the champions of Europe. They have many of the great players for the World Cup winners. Respect the game. What can you do? Real quick, Thomas Kenzie in the comments. Barca, we did it. Shout out to you, Thomas. Congratulations on the victory. Vespa, our pal over in Portugal, letting us know that NWSL is broadcasted in Portugal now, and it's for free. Smart marketing by NWSL. And then Vespa with a little bit of a spicy one. A
little spicy.
Best European team for him is Chelsea women.
Huh.
They got a 1-0 victory at Barcelona, but
we talked about it. We talked about it last week. I think Ramirez is in there. I'm not sure if it flips it, but it doesn't look exactly like it did first time around. But I will say, tremendous loss at manager for those Chelsea Blues, as Emma Hayes makes her triumphant arrival here to coach our U.S. Women's National Team. Let's fucking go. We're gonna get a chance. I think, I'm not sure if the Bon Pastor, maybe somebody in the comments let us know, is the Bon Pastor to Chelsea, is that finalized?
I don't think it's confirmed. Okay. I think it's still reported, as far as I understand.
I wanted to make one other quick point, because you mentioned the almost goal for Lyon early, which I take that point. Could have definitely changed the game. Right before halftime, CGH put Wendy Renard in the absolute spin cycle. She had her going round and round, and and super duper clean look at goal. Just puts it to the left of the post, wide, coming back across the goalkeeper. But she basically could do what she wanted with that play and just missed it. That, to me, was the best chance of the first half. Woodwork, no woodwork. So I think we can always play that game where it's like, oh, well, if this one.
Totally.
But, you know, on even footing, Barcelona, I still think very clearly the best team in the world. And I'll say one last thing on that piece. I love that they got the Alexia goal at the end, because to just get the 1-0 with the deflection, you know, and like Lyon has got this big history, and it's like, okay, they made a big deal on the broadcast as well. Okay, Barcelona versus Lyon, like this was like the last, you know, champ being the champ. Very like Ali, Foreman, Frazier type vibes for our 70s boxing fans out there. I love that Alexia gets the goal, slams the door, and is like, nope, now it's us. Like this wasn't a 1-0 where the highlight, because that Alexia goal is going to be the highlight. You know, like it's not going to be the Aitana goal. It was the difference, but we're going to see that Alexia goal, that Alexia celebration when we play this one back, and then real ones, you know, now obviously like player of the match, you know, in the old ITC record book. I think it's got to go to old Lucy Big Game, Lucy F Bronze. So we'll remember it, but I think that Alexia goal to kind of really stamp it, slam the door shut. Like 30 seconds after that, Becho kicks one out of bounds, you know, and you were just like, oof, this is over. So I'm glad they got like a resounding win.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I want to go back to when you were talking about CGH getting Wendy Renard in the spin cycle. So here it is from my notes. CGH has Renard running back with her back to CGH. And it doesn't matter who you are. That is the worst possible thing that could happen to you as a defender, of you having your back turned trying to get in position, and CGH is on the ball. And Wendy Renard, and you know, I don't act like I'm some kind of like women's football historian, but you know, everything I've read, everything I've understand, the people I've listened to, I think it's pretty much understood Wendy Renard is one of the greatest players who's ever lived. And it doesn't even matter that it's her. That is an awful spot to be in with CGH on the ball.
I've woken up in a cold sweat, 3 o'clock in the morning, just thinking about me running and CGH behind me with the ball. The defender, just brutal. Wendy Renard, not only great historically, she was great today. Like, I mean, she gave him real problems, and she was pretty decisive, not really involved in the goal there. She basically shut down a lot of those attacks. I think they were able to put Badiuelo, you know, with her back to the goal, which kind of made life difficult for her. I thought the Lyon center backs were super solid, but it just became a point where it's just too much. It's too much pressure. It's too much possession, too many chances. All right, we got Thomas, not even close to Ramirez. Who are we talking about, Thomas? Who's not close to Ramirez, just so we're clear?
I think he said, somebody on Barca clears Ramirez, or Ramirez doesn't make as much of a difference to bring Chelsea close to Barcelona. Which, you know, we're 52 minutes removed from Barcelona winning the Champions League. Talk your talk, Thomas. I mean, you got to be out here at this point. You should beat your chest as the best team in the world. You know, so maybe last year when a team won the treble, I was out there maybe beating my chest as a team being the best in the world. And, you know, call it a quadruple if you want to count the Club World Cup on the men's side.
No, I don't want to do that, actually. So we'll just keep it with the trouble.
That's fair. And let's stick to women's football, because there were no other football matches played anywhere else today. Not important. None of those results matter. We're talking about the UEFA Women's Champions League. This is a podcast primarily about women's football. I want to take one. Wait, to your Renard and Gilles point. Again, because I don't want to do the podcast of let's talk about the team that lost. I'll just frame it through this. Renard and Gilles played well, and you still lose 2-0 because Barcelona, just the absolute greatness. You talk about Caldente, and I think Lucy Ward mentioned it. Like, Badiuelo is not like the textbook number 9, as much as I have talked on this podcast of I like her in the number 9 position. But like, when you have Badiuelo and Caldente out there, Caldente, she has those moments where she's kind of like in that false 9 type of role where she's like a little back. She's a little more part of the buildup. And she can kind of like if you switch Periuelo out to the wing and then Caldente is like your false nine, you see players disappear in those kind of scenarios. And she didn't do it today. And they just continued to put the pressure on all four of Lyon's excellent back four players. And, you can play as well as you want. You still might lose.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you have to defend and you have to threaten to score. Yeah. And I think the problem with, it was funny. They ran the graphic at around the half-hour mark. I think it was like 56-44 possession. And then they ran in the second half at some point, and it was like 61 or 62. And I'm just like, oh, this is getting further and further away from Lyon being able to stay in this match. Exactly. And it just ended up being too much to contend with. And I thought when Giraldez brought in Onabatier also, that was massive, because it's like you have a fresh defender back there. You don't need Rolfo at that point. I thought she played pretty well.
I thought she had a good shift.
Yeah, for sure. But obviously dropping Batier, who I think was on our World 11 last year, just right in that spot. Now you're Lyon and you're like, oh damn, we got another guy with Batier too. I didn't think that, I'm going to continue to be curious on whether or not Graham Hansen took Basha out of the game mentally, because those attacks early were vicious. Like they were they were just unrelenting, just unforgiving. I mean, they were punishing. Like they were just like, and there was a couple where I think Basha started to smarten up and be like, let me give myself a couple more yards. Let me give myself a couple more. And it didn't matter. Like it was just and then like gone the other way. So, and when you try to make an adjustment and like the other players a step or two ahead of your adjustments, like they've already adjusted to your adjustment, that's bad. And I think Basha's best contributions offensively were early. And I think once we hit that 20-25 minute mark and she kind of was on the wrong end of the highlight of the YouTube highlight mix, it kind of, maybe neutralized her, maybe got in her head a little bit, wasn't able to, kind of affect the game, create some of those chances from distance because she's just so good at that.
I think we talked about it in the context of something else, but there is something, it's a great point by you. There's something demoralizing about, okay, I'm making this adjustment. And she knows too, because they're all genius footballers out there. Basha certainly knows that, okay, I'm going to give myself a little more space to contend with CGH. She already knows, damn, that's what Barcelona wants to. But I kind of got to do it to make sure I stay competitive, or stay close to the level with CGH, and then she's still having a rough time with it. Like that's just like compounding things of like, okay, like you just at that point you're just kind of like holding on to the shopping cart as you're like it's starting to tip over and shit. And you're just like, oh, keep control of this thing.
100%. I mean, we talked about in the preview that the midfield was going to be huge. And when you look at Barcelona, Patry, Bonmati, and Kira Walsh, I thought across the board they were better than Damaris, Van de Donk, and Haran. I think all three of those Lyon players had their moments, but Kira Walsh it's so weird, man. She like controls the game without even really touching the ball. And you just kick her the ball, she kicks it right back to you, but somehow it's the right thing to do. It kind of gets things restarted. So she's just playing football on a different level. Up front, Caldente, I mentioned she had a solid game. Pariuelo, a little bit neutralized. CGH, obviously awesome. So Barcelona was able to kind of string together Graham Hansen, Bonmati, and Patry on the other side being a little bit creative offensively to create a little bit of like a shell kind of attack, with those two midfielders and that right wing of Graham Hansen. And just like they found that's the problem when you kind of like play back and you're just like they'll solve the puzzle. They'll unlock what needs to get unlocked in that match. And they found a lot of success with those three, and I think that that, like I said, the game slipped further and further away from Lyon, unfortunately.
I'm gonna try to make a little bit of a comparison to 90s, early 2000s men's football here, and I take no joy in making this comparison. And I want to say this is not reflective of Kira Walsh's character or how she is as a person, because I would never insult her this way. Roy Keane, defensive midfielder for Manchester United, who it acts like a huge jerk from time to time. So I'm not comparing Kira Walsh that way, but just like I take the ball off you. I don't make a lot of spectacular passes, but I make the right pass. Okay, time for me to take my shot at Roy Keane. Maybe I'm surrounded by really great players, and so maybe I'm not the greatest player myself, but I work super well with those great players, and I actually wouldn't assign that to Kira Walsh because I do believe her to be an excellent player. But I'm gonna throw out the Roy Keane shout of just like, I am a defensive stalwart. I know where to be. I know who to get the ball to. I have good timing. I have good link up play with the players who can make those spectacular moves. And it's just such a good point by you. Like you're 58 minutes into the match and you're like, yeah, Walsh has been good, but like unknowingly, I at no point have I been like, wow, great play by Walsh. But she'll have those blocks. She'll have those interventions, but it's just like, it's like droning excellence, if you will. It's just like a consistent contribution to the cause.
Yeah. Her decision-making is just super fast, and she just keeps it. She just keeps the offense moving. And I was really keyed in on her because I just wasn't sure what that was going to look like, because obviously I'm like, okay, when Lyon's in attack, she's going to have to sit back and be involved. And there was one play where Sharples was like, oh, Kira Walsh gets the block. Oh, here's Lyon again. Oh, Kira Walsh again with the block. Holy shit, just like single-handedly ending this one Lyon sequence. So she was really good. But the Barcelona midfield as a whole, really good. Back four, really good as well. And they found a way. They found a couple ways to score and then ultimately slam the door.
I know I'm hopping around a little bit. Was the Bonmati goal, was she going for a cross or a shot? I
think she's such a advanced supercomputer of a footballer
I love it.
She's just like, the same thing in the Chelsea match where she knocks it off Khadija Buchanan. She's like, what if I knock it off? What if I just kick it into a dangerous area? Because to your point, if you're a defender, you don't get a clean touch on it. You've made the situation for the goalkeeper worse.
Yeah.
This is not something that Bonmati hasn't seen thousands of times in her footballing career. So I wouldn't put it past her to be like, I can put this where if it squirts through, it's dangerous. If it gets clipped, it's dangerous. If it makes it to the goalkeeper, dangerous. If somebody finds the end of it, dangerous. It hits the post. So I think she's just able to see. She's clearly able to see things that we're really not able to see. Yeah. So even if it was a cross, she understood where Gio was. She understood what the math was on what could happen from there. And it wasn't like somebody was just kind of sitting wide open, unmarked on the other side. Ultimately, it's a goal she 100% created through her will and her skill. So that's how it's going to go down for me.
I like it. My first instinct was cross, and I wonder if it's such a good point by you that she's like so advanced. And it actually reminded me of something, again, the crappy American high school soccer that I played. But one of the best players who I played with had said to me one time, he was like, yeah, cross or pass, back post is what I'm actually thinking. And I wonder if that's probably Bonmati's, like, exactly to your point. Like, okay, yeah, if I get a deflection or if somebody's on the other end there, or maybe I hit it in a way and it bounces off the post and ricochets in, like, she's able to compute that and give herself a million options. I think if I'm forced to answer, I feel emboldened now because our guy Vespa is in the comments saying cross 100%. I like the firmness of that take. Vespa, you already know I'm a little more wishy-washy than that. But I think if I'm forced to choose, I think it's a cross, but I think she's probably more along the lines, to your point, thinking I'm going back post and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I agree with that. It kind of reminds me in basketball when you have like your center in the post and you've got a mismatch on the point guard and you're driving the ball in. You could try to force it, or you could just put the ball in the rim, and then if it goes in, that's great. If it bounces off, your guys in the post with a huge mismatch, and you could get a putback or some kind of positive outcome. Either way, I mean, it was like was that the least surprising goal, like or kind of outcome? Like if you said, all right, 0-0. What's going to happen here these next 10 minutes once you get to the 60-minute mark? Was like Aitana scoring on a drive like that maybe the least surprising outcome?
Probably the least surprising on the spectrum of outcomes. Yeah. I mean, it's like, is the best player in the match gonna score? Like, I'd probably place my money on that one. That one was like a plus 110 to use some gambling parlance. And like everybody else is kind of trailing after that. I think you're spot on with that. Yeah. Like
Diani probably plus 350, plus 400, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, exactly. Like Dumornay, so like not far behind that. Like I think that all
750.
That all makes sense. We're setting the lines here.
Let's go. All right, I want to zoom out a little. Well, let's see.
Should we talk goalkeepers? Anything jump out to you on the goalkeeping? I thought it was pretty par for the course. And Endler, nothing she was going to do on that first one. We talked about that. And then Putellas, point blank range, not a lot to do on that one either. This one's not on her in really any real way, I don't think.
No, not at all. I mean, I thought, like I mentioned, I think Katakoy had a little nervy. She sort of has this like on a resume, first 20 minutes, she'll kind of get a little. We talk about loosey goosey bronze. She's a little Katakoy. She's got a little bit of that in her game, but she definitely settled in. Endler, can't really point a finger at her for either of those. The Alexia goal, though, she was frozen in time. I mean, that one was fucking blasted. That was. I'm like actually looking forward to kind of reliving that one as like the iconic memory or the little GIF from this final. I've been a little on the fence with this. Obviously we have our 5 ITC Hall of Fame spots. I used up one of mine, and I think we also agreed offline that we're each going to get 5. So we're going to let 10 players in each year.
Okay.
Or a max of 10.
Yeah. We're not forced to. It's like a baseball Hall of Fame ballot where like you can pick 10, but you don't have to.
10's the max. I want to give you a little space here in case you wanted to look at anything on the board, because if you don't make a move, I'm going to make a move with regard to our Hall of Fame, because it just got to happen.
Okay.
No pressure.
I think I'm assigning way too much pressure to myself, and it's like, oh no, the Hall of Fame is a sacred club that we have here. I mean, and inaugural member for anybody who was maybe inaugural is not the right word, but the first ever, the charter member, the first ever member of the ITC Hall of Fame is of course Aaron Cuthbert, the Scottish legend.
Aaron F. Cuthbert. Speaking of Chelsea,
exactly. So I'm not going to make a definitive one. I want to try to guess what you're thinking. I think we're probably at the point where you could put Aitana Bonmati in the ITC Hall of Fame, but we're a different kind of Hall of Fame. So where were you leaning here?
I was leaning to the original Hall of Fame that you were alluding to, which is, hey, when you're the best team on the team that lifts the World Cup and the best player on the team that lifts the Champions League trophy,
come on.
Safe to say, I mean, she put the team on her back in a must-win at Stamford Bridge as well, just to get here.
Yeah.
And you just love that fucking kind of drive where the game is kind of stalling, like sort of stuck in the mud a little bit. And it's just like, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make our trophy happen. So I don't want to, I feel like I put you in a bad spot. So I'm going to take Do you want to put her on your one of your 5? If not, I'm happy to put. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to be ashamed to be like, yeah, my first choice was Aitana Bonati. I think I'm good with that. Yeah, best player in the world, can't argue with it.
All right, I'm gonna celebratory beer number 2
Look
for our latest inductee, World Cup champion, Champions League champion, player of most matches she plays in, Aitana Bonati. Cheers! Welcome to the ITC Hall of Fame. Well deserved.
Yes, cheers, Aitana. I'm sure this is the cruddiest honor you'll ever receive, but you're an ITC Hall of Famer nonetheless.
Yep. No one can take that away from you forever.
You got to figure out what the medal or the patch looks like. Yeah, make sure we get that over to Barcelona so the communications person can be like, what? Let's this out of here.
Yeah, all right, Vespa, let's go. Cheersing with us. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm definitely down with that. Well, I'll let them know to kind of clear up some room in their trophy case to start, make a little space for Aitana's ITC Hall of Fame plaque. Just
I like it.
Little corner area. It doesn't have to be, so prominent, but should be there. I
love it. Yeah, talk your talk. I'm gonna call you Slush. SLSH. Calling Liga F a farmers league, but they're still bullying teams in Europe. Everybody, I feel like that's the sarcasm of a Barca fan being like, "Oh yeah, we play in the farmers league, huh?" I can relate to that. Again, of course, apologies for anybody who doesn't follow American collegiate football, but I follow a team where everybody tells me my team plays in a bad league, and every once in a while we win it. And I'm like, "Oh, whatever. What about our strength of schedule, though?" So, I think all Barca fans, I look forward to some of the other comments. I hope people, even if they just for fun, check out the preview. Come on, you rain it on me. That's fine. I predicted the 1-0 Lyon victory. I do also want to point out, I woke up the next morning after we recorded that show, and it dawned on me. I was like, man, it is hilarious that we did a preview and Asil is awesome. I think we didn't get a negative comment about her, in the YouTube comments or anything like that. Unless you could count it as a negative of somebody pointing out, okay, so here's your Lyon, France-based journalist and academic who is also a Real Madrid fan. That's who you brought on to preview our Barcelona match. And it made me laugh. And I was like, you know what? Didn't know she was a Madrid fan. Yeah. Fair point from the
fair play.
Yeah. Fair play from the Barca supporters. I had a little bit of fun with it this morning, saying that we were going to try to get like Ada Hegerberg. I mentioned Origi, who scored those 2 goals for Liverpool in the Champions League a few years ago. Yeah, I had like a whole list. I was like, we're gonna ask Olga Carmona to come on, and maybe Carlo Ancelotti, maybe he'll help us break down this match for Barcelona. So that was never intended, Barca supporters. That was not the intention. And like I always say with me and Dino, we never promised we were good at this. But
whoa. Hey, we can rewind the tape. I predicted 2-1 Barca in the final, right?
That's fair.
Leave me out of this. You and the Seal, you guys are over here. I'm over here. I'm over here with the winners.
No, that's fair. No, that's fair play to you. Yeah. So I never promised I was good at this. But yeah, without a doubt, though, again, shout out to Asil Tufaili, who just came in with the great points. And I think a lot of the things that you talked about, this is going to be a battle of the midfield. And some of the commenters in here pointed out who won the midfield battle. Barcelona, they win the match. She talked about, the importance of Basha trying to get forward. Basha's not able to get forward. Who wins that battle? Barcelona, they win the match. And so, I think a lot of the points stood, and that's the beauty of like a free-flowing game like football or basketball, where you kind of have all those 1v1 matchups within the match. And then if you win enough of those, you put yourself in the right position to do it. But sometimes it's a coin flip, and sometimes it works out with one team getting more.
I think you bringing up the 1v1 matchups is right on the money, because Asil clued us into say, all right, what's your key matchup you're watching? She was like, I want to watch Damaris and Aitana. And on the goal, like I said, Damaris is like even with Aitana and kind of cooks her a little bit, and that becomes a difference in the game. The other duels, Melchi Dumornay versus Irene Paredes. Dumornay, knocks Paredes to the ground, let's say in the first 90 seconds of the match.
Yes.
We're not sure exactly what kind of strike Dumornay put onto Paredes, but I think the message had been sent that Lyon was not going to be afraid, which they weren't. But to Paredes' credit, she was like, okay, like this is how we're going to play. And she stood up to all of it. Cascarino, Dumornay, Dionis on the other side. So didn't have to deal with that too much. But I thought Paredes was really good after kind of looking a little, not really a little shaky early, but you just kind of wonder how she's going to hold up against this physical play, these probably superior athletes. And her and the back four, I mean, like, props to them. I think they were really good. But yeah, the one-on-one CGH versus Basha, we talked about that a ton. Diani versus Rolfo, that was super exciting. Trying to put my finger on which other ones I'm trying to think through and remember. Yeah, I'm kind of blanking for a moment, but I think I just enjoyed, like, we talked about this maybe at the UEFA Nations League final when it was Spain versus France, where you're like, seeing all these great players on the field is so fucking cool, because you really get to see who's like, of these 22, who are the top 4 or 5 of these 22? Like, because like just starting there, like now we're really looking at something special. And I think we've talked about those players that kind of stood above, and you got to see them in these one-on-one battles and be like, oh shit! Like, to see the difference between CGH and Basha was like, Basha's more. I mean, I was considered more of an offensive genius, more than kind of like a defensive stalwart. But to see the gap there, Champions League final, to see how good Graham Hansen was, how threatening she was, and like I think that really was, we always like to talk about the tip of the spear. That was the tip of the spear. That kind of like just created all of the opportunity in behind it. Like she was just like the bullet passing through, and then like all the wind and gravity kind of opens up behind her. And that's when I kind of knew this is going to be, Lyon's going to need a couple breaks here and maybe something special. And we talked about the Katakoi sort of like mishaps maybe being the opportunities that kind of came and went for Lyon.
Totally. Let me, sorry, I'm like doing a little bit of communications here. Let me just plow through this. But yeah, I think you're dead on the Diani Rolfo matchup, and those kind of individual matchups. I think when you talk about France versus Spain, and if you try to pick the 4 best players, like if you had a draft, you might talk to 5 people, and you might get 5, like outside of Aitana. Like I think everybody probably takes Aitana 1, but outside of that, you might have 4 different or 5 different top 4s. If you have 5 different people draft, like who would be my 4 that I would pick right off the top?
Well, even I thought about this because like Lucy Ward on the call was like, oh, okay, Ballon d'Or winner. It's got to be Caroline Graham Hansen, hands down. She's the best. She's had the best season. And I was kind of like, maybe. Like, I don't know if we can say that, to that level of certainty.
I thought it was a good shout by Lucy. I was like, I mean, what she's like averaging like a goal and an assist per 90 or something. I think she's the only player in the world to be doing that. I think I heard somebody say that, but you're still right. Cause like, can you say it that definitively over Bonmati?
I don't think so. I mean, I just don't think so. I mean, she was great. The 2 of them are just magic. Like, I think, them kind of playing off each other. Once they get into rhythm, they were not totally in sync early in the game, but they definitely found their rhythm a little bit later. And then Lucy Ward was also calling out the fact that Graham Hansen was like, wide open on a bunch of plays, and Barcelona was like really just kind of playing up the left and leaving her kind of hanging a little bit. Could have been. I feel like it could have been. This was the right scoreline. Do you feel like anything should have or could have gone differently, or did we get the right result, right scoreline?
For sure, the right result. Totally fair. I don't think there were any circumstances where we would have came on here and I'd be like, I'm shocked Barcelona won the match. Like, there's never a point where I would feel that way. I felt like 1-0 would have been a super fair result too. I think it would have been reflective. I think I like what you're talking about. Like maybe some of the more angry or bitter Lyon fans could have been like, well, the one goal was off a deflection. But like, as we talked about, that's a clear Aitana goal. Like she made that goal. So I don't have any interest in really calling that luck. So yeah, I think 2-0 is fair enough to get that clincher for Putellas to get that moment. That's super huge. So yeah, 1-0, 2-0. I think either is fair. Mentioned it at the top of the show. Maybe for those who had additional interests, additional gambling interests, who may have had Lyon plus 1.25, would have liked to see that stick to a 1-0 victory. But that's how sports work. And Putellas getting that moment, I mean, come on, man. This is too good to pass up.
I mean, storybook, that was pretty awesome. I want to kind of round it out with some awards. We're going to just kind of do these on the fly because I've got, as mentioned, I've got the ITC personal record book here. So we're going to be record booking. Player of the match. Did we agree on Lucy Bronze or did Beaumati? Yeah, now that I feel like we've talked it out. Now I feel like we've gotten a lot out of our system. We've expunged, like we should feel a sense of peace as we kind of make some of these calls. Player of the match. I feel like I'm down to 2. Graham Hansen was obviously electric. But I think she's clearly kind of like a third place finisher. Do we want to say the player of the match, Lucy Big Game Bronze or Aitana Beaumati in the ITC personal record book? Let's make a call here.
I think I would let's do another basketball thing. I think giving it to Bronze is like, what was the one NBA finals? I can't remember if somebody like cast a vote for like Chris Middleton for finals MVP, like when the Bucks won, or like there was a weird one that happened where I was like, okay, dude, I get it. I see what you're doing. You're the smart guy. Like, and to take nothing away from what Bronze did, because she was huge. Beaumati's the best player. She gets the deciding goal. I say we don't be cutesy on this. Or do we want to be the guys who are like, well, actually, I think it's Lucy Bronze over Aitana Beaumati. Not that voice helps influence our decision.
Damn, this is tough. I mean, I'm gonna say, I don't know, if you're kicking it to me, I'm probably gonna say Aitana, because usually when sort of like you get a wild card, like I'm thinking of like fucking way back, but Larry Brown, Super Bowl MVP for the Dallas Cowboys. I think he had 2 interception returns for a touchdown. You need the iconic big play, or the Tayshaun Prince block, or something that's just like, oh fuck, like like you just need that one. Yeah, like so. And I don't know. I mean, Lucy Brown's super solid, but I can't quite say, damn, that one play, the match sort of turned on that one play. So I think she was obviously great. I'm going to remember this as the match that changed my mind with regard to like, Lucy Bronze, in terms of like how she sits, in my personal record book. So I think we got to go Aitana for player of the match.
Totally with you on that. And that is a really great point. Thank you for mentioning it so my American brain could square it. Yeah, when you get those weird, did like Rondé Barber get a Super Bowl MVP or something? Or I can't remember who won it for the Buccaneers that one year. It was some guy who had an interception return for a touchdown. Like I think Bobby Wagner was a Super Bowl MVP for the Seahawks. So like, yeah, you got to have that moment. Bronze had some blocks. She was pivotal on the attack. Aitana gets the goal. Aitana lifts the trophy. She has a no doubt case. Carlo Wilson asks, Aitana on another team in another league, how does she fare? Aitana, do you want to live in Seattle, Washington? Because what's your contract situation? Yeah, I think you put Aitana Bonmati on any team, and I think everything about that team immediately changes.
There was one moment where I thought Dianis trying to get the ball off Aitana, and the camera was like zoomed close in on the two of them, and Diani is like she'd kind of come in, Aitana just to kind of dance away, and like Diani was so frustrated, and Aitana just kind of playing with her. There was a couple other moments where this was happening a lot in the first half, where Lyon defensively were kind of darting in because they're like, oh, that ball's mine, and it turns out ball not mine.
No,
ball's theirs. And I think Aitana, another team, obviously you have to have players. I mean, she's not going to go one on everybody all the time. So she has to be on the field with other great players. And she's a great player, so she deserves that. You know, but I think pretty much any team you put her on, she's a focal point and a game breaker. And in the biggest moments, the highest leverage moments, when nothing is totally working, your number 9, Pariuelo, Caldente, your other forward, solid, but not really, putting the fear of God into Endler and Lyon as a whole.
Yeah.
Bonmati is just that kind of player where it's like, I'm going to put my foot on the gas here and just, rewrite history for a second. And she's able to do it, like it's not like she's just setting people up and, everybody's open and everybody's, like maybe in against the Liga F dregs sometimes. Sure. But I mean, we've watched her in these big matches. We've seen probably every minute of Champions League football that Barcelona's played. Yep. And she's just, undisputed. Like you cannot deny her greatness, and you can't deny her on the pitch either. Like she's just going to find a way, and she found a way today.
She's got all the belts. She has all the pelts on the wall. If I could use that phrase, like, I mean, what more do you want? The Ballon d'Or, the World Cup, the Champions League, Liga F. She got everything you could have. She has. So I think you got to kind of look at her as to your point, the undisputed champ. I think it's a fair question, Carlo, and I want to get to one of Carlo's earlier comments. Great shout by him. Get Aitana a 6-pack of Southern Tier Double Haze IPA. Great beer out of Western New York, Carlo. Good shout by you, my good man.
Great pull.
I think let me see here. Anybody else? I thought Damaris was good. I thought Damaris held up. I wanted to make sure to mention
Orlando
her.
Zone.
What are we doing there? She didn't get in the USA system.
I think it looked like, according to Wikipedia, it looked like she might have scooted out early. Orlando, not really for everybody. Talk about that later.
Mention that offline.
Catch me in the DMs. So it looks like I think she's got one parent who's Basque and one that's Dutch.
She plays for the Dutch national team, if memory serves.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, so it looks like she's cap-tied. But, yeah, missed out her. Wait, actually... Oh, shit. So her international career, she started Spain. She played Spain U17, U19, U20 before joining the Netherlands in 2022. So that's something you got to keep an eye on. They're sneaky, those Dutch, when it comes to snagging players that have multiple options. All right, we'll keep an eye on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I think that, and I mean, we talked about her, but I thought Paredes held up well. Just to give her one more like, last shouts before we get out of here.
Hell yeah.
Unless you got other stuff.
No, I mean, I think what about the tournament as a whole? I want to take a couple of minutes to just kind of rewind back. We obviously we'll be back next season to cover the Champions League tournament again. So you already know what time it is. Don't go anywhere. And if you're not following our NWSL stuff, shout out to Vespa again, who says that NWSL is now available in Portugal. I'm pretty sure NWSL Plus probably has a lot of availability globally. So if you're not up on that league, don't worry about it. Just listen to the pod. We'll catch you up on everything you need to know about NWSL. But now that Europe's winding down, you already know what time it is. It's going to be pretty much all NWSL here at the ITC until we get to the Olympics. And we're going to have some special guests for the Olympics too. But looking back on the tournament, what are you going to remember from this tournament? Obviously, we had some fucking crazy performances, some players that grew their profile immensely in our minds and in the show, and also in the record book. But yeah, what are you gonna take away tournament wise now that we're at the end?
To all our pals here, there is a game, and I think everybody plays it. I think it's a worldwide game of sports guys, and the game used to be called in less evolved times. The game was basically just called "Let's Name Some Dudes." But the game now is let's name some players and let's name some moments where you just kind of look back and you can just kind of look at each other. Like I mentioned, like Origi for Liverpool from like 2019. Plays for your Tricky Trees now, by the way, your side piece.
That's right.
I just want to name a moment. Remember when Eintracht Frankfurt was up 1-0 on Barcelona at halftime in the group stage?
Yeah, Lower Freigang, I think, if memory serves. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great shout by you. Like the group stage was super rad. I mean, obviously Barcelona looked like a destroyer of worlds, but like that Frankfurt first 45 minutes, we were just like on the edge of our seat, like, okay, something's happening here. Like this is pretty interesting. And then obviously you could not speak about Group A without speaking about the rise of Benfica. All the great players on that squad. Of course, shout out to the legend Vespa hanging out with us. Like Benfica, just such a joy to watch. Do I need to say it? Do I need to? I do actually need to. Let me check. Yeah, I do need to say it.
Well, I want to hop on the Benfica train real quick because
please.
We had a lot of great Benfica moments. Obviously, Kika came. Yeah, Kika went away for a little bit. Then she came back. We had the 4-4 draw. We got to recount the 4-4 draw with our guy Cam Pope, who also lost his mind. Ushabi also, missed and then kind of like just popped up, and all of a sudden they were, you just were not beating them after she came back.
Yeah.
We got the Reisler goal. We got Mimi Alidou.
Oh yeah.
Benfica was a source of a lot of great joy. So Group A, shout out to them. I mean, I cannot wait to see them hopefully back in the Champions League next season. I'm not fully up on the Portuguese Vespa. Let us know if we're on track for that. I'm pretty sure that we are, just because they've looked really solid. Yeah. Last time I checked, I think they were undefeated at the top of their league. But Benfica definitely in the power rankings inside our heart, they're all the way up there for sure.
For sure. Never forget the Raceland neck tattoo.
Third eye, baby. Keep it open.
Yeah. Powell's their goalkeeper had some great moments. I think. Oh, Carlo Wilson, great shout in the comments. AS Roma.
Let's go.
One of your favorites.
Fucking go. Little Valentina Giacinti, little Manuela Giuliano, Saki Kumagai making it all work.
Yeah.
Canadian Evelyn Viennes, who came up big in big spots. Group of Life.
Yeah. Oh,
the fucking Group of Life.
Let's go.
AS Roma, fell in love with them. Ajax, you already know what time it is. Lil Johannes, Sharita Spitza, Luke Durr, everything that they've got going on over there. Chastity Grant, just had a ball watching them. Bayern, one of the big dogs, bounced early, even though they're loaded. They're going to be back in a huge way. I know that they've just made some big moves, and I don't think they were too happy about not surviving the Group of Life. And then PSG, You know, I mean, what a fucking stacked group that was. Literally, shout out to DAZN here in the US. Hopefully they have this kind of coverage. If you've got the free time, go back and watch all of those Group C Champions League group of life matchups. They were fucking incredible. And that last Group C day where we recounted it throughout those 2 hours and change, all 4 Group C teams at one point or another were in that top 2 slot, ready to move on to the quarterfinals, including Roma, including Bayern.
Yeah,
that was an incredible day. I mean, that one, probably one of the best days watching football that I've had.
Totally agree. I think that's like, you know, people talk about like the NCAA college basketball tournament where like, or even like in the NFL playoffs when you have like the second, or maybe it's, like the second round of the playoffs, I think it is, whatever it is, but you have multiple games going on at the same time. So you have like a full fun day of football. And like, obviously the final is great. The semifinals are great. But like when you have multiple matches at the same time, all the outcomes kind of hanging in the balance, that is about as good as you can ask for on a footballing day. So yeah, that final day, group of life, huge highlight. Let's see here. Who else do we got here?
I think we can give BK Hacken a shout to Rosa Kafaji, you know, and everything that they were doing, that defensive approach. It was really a lot of fun watching them, and that environment in Sweden was lit, very enjoyable. And I'm
Perry
not sure.
FC.
Perry FC. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Great matches out of them. You know, Shimaka and Adozi, you already know what time it is. We're in the tank for her.
Ul Hossein, Claire Mateo, like definitely enjoy Perry FC. There's one other team out there.
Who have we not mentioned yet?
Trouble putting my finger on it. Should I? Let me Google it.
I'd say it's SK Brann out of Bergen, Norway.
That's the one. That's the one.
With the Brann Battalion pushing them along. Come on, man! What a club! Just completely. It was good to see. You know, you and I, we talk about we're newbies to this. Like this is our first time ever, you know, paying super close attention to the Women's Champions League. And to hear like, oh, they're out of the lowest cohort, and you know their analytics don't really match up, and you know it's a real accomplishment for this club to make the Champions League, and you know good for them. And then all of a sudden they come out, and everybody's like, whoa, they are like not even scoring line wise, but when they're playing against Praha and Polten, you're like, oh, they're actually fairly significantly better than them. They're kind of battering them, even in a 1-0 victory, they're pushing them around and kind of, enforcing their will essentially in the matches. And then they go line up against Lyon, and Nasil talked about it. That first match at the Groupama, Lyon Stadium, they lose 3-1, but everybody kind of looks at each other like, oh, they're a little better than we thought, huh?
Yeah, 100%. And I think pretty much everybody that we talked about on the show was like, oh, shit, Brann. Oh, how about that? They're really good. And yeah, shout out to them. Took points away from a matchup with Lyon.
Crazy.
Actually, they didn't take it. No, they didn't take any points from Barcelona, but hung super, super tough with the eventual champions. I mean, like, they went up against the best, and they were right there.
Yeah, that first leg against Brann, about as exciting as you could get. We get the Jelen goal. Or no, sorry, that was not a Jelen goal. That was Kavame scored that goal.
Barcelona.
Where they were level against Barcelona.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we talked about it with Asil. The snow game versus Lyon, the Gaupset equalizer near the death. Just magical moments from Brann. Unfortunately, in the second most important football match played today, Brann lost 1-0 to Stabæk. There's probably a 0% chance I'm pronouncing Stabæk correctly. But we can try to turn our eyes to a little bit of top Syrian action as now that
That's right.
some of the other leagues have kind of wound down. But yeah, I mean, to everybody from Bergen, all the Bronze supporters, the battalion, thanks for rocking with us. Like that has been like we mentioned it when they went down to Barcelona. A life affirming experience, just like with all our pals here, checking out the live show. Like, this is why the internet was invented. It was not to sow hate and discontent and misinformation as it is being used now. I think it's nice that like we have pals over in Portugal and Germany and Spain and the Norway. Like, this is
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is why the internet was made. So if we brought any minutes of entertainment to you guys, we're very proud of that and happy for it. We just appreciate you guys for rocking with us.
100%. All right. You know what time it is. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's it, man. I think we've done it. This was a great tournament. I can't wait to cover it again as things develop. But like you pointed out, we got a lot more stuff coming down the pike that I think all our international pals will be locked in on as well.
Absolutely. Top Syrian, you already know what time it is. Get the zone to broadcast it. Yep, definitely need to do that. Definitely need to. All right, yeah. We'll put in some calls. We know one, possibly two people over there. We'll see.
There you go. Yeah, we're networking.
Yeah. We're fanning out, just kind of like spider webbing out. Yeah, man, great fucking tournament. Just great time hanging out with everybody that's been rocking with us. And this is definitely not the end. Like I mentioned, we're back every single week, sometimes twice a week, sometimes more. We will be checking in on Top Syrian, tracking the NWSL pretty closely, pretty much everything international that's big, like the Olympics. And then before we know it, Europe will be back. And we will be covering some of the qualifications, next Champions League finals in Lisbon. Vespa, you already know what time it is. We're going to be just clear out a little corner of your apartment for us. We might be coming to crash with you. We'll bring the beer. We'll make a time of it. Hopefully Benfica makes a deep run there. Field's pretty much wide open. We'll see. A lot of coaching changes, so a lot of the ground shifting underneath us.
Benfica versus City in the final.
Oh, I love that. Maybe Arsenal sneaks in. We'll see.
There we go.
We do have the tougher path, being in the third spot in our WSL. We'll keep an eye on that. No Braun though. That's gonna be a fucking bummer. So it's pretty much Top Syrian or nothing. That's kind of what time it is in Norway here.
We'll get him back the next year.
Absolutely. All right, man. I think we did it. This has been another episode, actually not another live episode, the very first live episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for rocking with us. Please remember, subscribe if you enjoyed talking a little Champions League football with your boys. Huge shout out, huge thank you to my guy, Mr. Grand Angle. What a fucking ride, man. Like, didn't think that we'd get all the way when we started the pod, man, but it's been fucking awesome. And I appreciate you. You already know what time it is.
Yeah, likewise, buddy. And for the fans, Dino will not take credit for this. A lot of this is his brainchild of being like, hey, let's talk about the Champions League. These teams look good. So, all credit to you, my man, and thank everybody again for hanging out with us. We appreciate you, and we will see you guys very soon.